Good evening, good day, and welcome back to the Ask Abhijit show. Today we are doing episode 248, and I'm going to take questions about everything that you want to ask me. And I haven't had time to select questions from the comments, so I'm going to take all the questions from the live chat. It's going to be a completely interactive session today. And I'm pretty sure that you have lots of questions about Pakistan, about Trump, and we'll see what else. So let's see who all is there on the live stream today with us. I can see Ananta Padmanabha, Mahek Katta, Geopolitical Dubey, Yashwant Sudhir Kai, Basant 007, Shekhar, Aviral Gandhi 74, Vishal Brijesh SK, Manoj Prasad 9393, Abhi, Ayush Pandey, Piyush Maurya, Romal Biju, Ajit Ja Creator, GK, Amisha Mishra, Shashank Kaushik, Pradeep Riddhi Kota, Squidward, Gautam Val, Ansh, Zubong Zubon Ising, Soham Joshi, Indra Yudh Banerjee, Ashwin Ramachandran, Satyam Singh Tanwar, Anant Pai, Surinder Gupta Sharp, Subramanian Lakshmanan, Geopolitical Dubai again, Ritam Chakrabarti, Bineet, Priyanshi Sood, SDV, Siddhant, Shashank, Biplab Datta, Uma Maheshwari, Bot Gaming, Rishikesh, Samarth Tripathi, Sarthak Mohapatra, Rishikesh Dasgupta, Tanay Chandra, Abhijit Singh, God Was Alive, Ritik Vishnoi, Ritupan Bora, Jenil, Nirupam, Abhinash Pradhan, Oscar Madison, Swapnil Das Tanoy, Gaurav, Krunal Jadeja, Ravi Narayan, Mr. Batsy, Crazy Brain, Park Jimin, Diraj Kamath, Truthful Penguin, Ashish Pandel, Insanely Boy, Mac Purr, Vinay, Sahil Wag, Shri Hari Arun, and so many other people. So thank you so much, all of you, for being on this live stream with me tonight. And I'm going to stop greeting you all, otherwise, that's all I'll do today. But let's get going with the questions. What questions do you have? Please ask me your questions, and I'll take as many as I can over the next couple of hours. And I have a question by Mark Levin. IAF used dummy aircraft to fool Pakistan's air defense system. That's some deep center of gravity. Well, this is war. In war, you use all means at your disposal. Uh, as Sun Tzu said, all warfare is about is a matter of deception. So, if you have the technology, if you can create fake aircraft, dummy aircraft, which cost next to nothing, and have the Pakistanis, have the enemy waste valuable missiles at those by firing at those, well, you should do that. And we clearly are in a position to do that. So we did that. So outstanding, good job. Pranay Paul says, do you foresee something massive unfolding in the next 2 weeks as part of round two of Operation Sindoor? Is this the calm before a decisive storm? I don't know. I would love there to be a part two. We had the Pakistanis where we wanted them to be, but they have kind of slithered away. But if there's a calm before a decisive storm, if this is the calm, then I am all for it. But yeah, uh, can't really say. Can't really say at this point in time. Dhruv says, was it in the American interest to have a ceasefire, to ask India to agree to a ceasefire or a pause in the fighting, as India was going in nuclear exchange would have left no counterweight for China? I'm not sure what you're asking, but let's consider the scenario. We are at war with Pakistan, and JD Vance goes on a podcast or interview or something, and he tells the lady, I think it was a lady, he tells the lady that, you know what, this fight between India and Pakistan, it's none of our business. It's none of America's business. We need to stay out of it. That's what JD Vance, the vice president of the US, says. And in less than 24 hours, Trump comes on social media, says that I have uh, mediated a ceasefire, blah, 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 that sort of thing, right? Essentially, I have forced the two nations to agree to a ceasefire. Essentially, he has forced India to agree to a ceasefire. That's essentially what he's saying, because Pakistan was begging for the ceasefire. So, what changed in those 24 hours, and how is it in the American interest to to stop India from doing whatever it was doing to Pakistan? That's the question you're asking. That's a great question. So, I think the Americans had never anticipated, my friends, the extent to which India would hurt Pakistan. They thought, probably going by historical precedent, that India may do another surgical strike in Pakistan, hit some terrorist outposts a couple of kilometers from the line of control, perhaps. Or maybe India will do an airstrike. one airstrike and we are done. Maybe that's what they calculated. Maybe that's what they thought, right? But what they saw was totally different. India goes deep inside Pakistan, hundreds of kilometers inside Pakistan, hits, I don't know, 9 terrorist camps over and over again. India doesn't just hit those terrorist camps. India sends loitering drones to calmly film everything. And then India puts all the evidence on display. So Pakistan is humiliated. So the Pakistanis try something again. They try to hit Indian targets with drones and missiles and whatnot. We bring everything down. Another gigantic shock for the Americans and the world. How does India, a nation like India, have the best air defense system in the world, better than the Israelis, better than everybody else? How did that happen? And when the Pakistanis tried this against us, we hit them with missiles of all kinds. The world had never seen what an Indian missile strike looks like. The world had never heard an Indian missile, what an Indian missile sounds like. And we got to see this from the Pakistani social media, right? And now we know what an Indian missile strike looks like and sounds like. We can hear the missile coming, but you can't stop it. And we can see how it sounds and what the explosion is like. Wham! Right in front of you. And this happened over and over and over again. And then they saw what Indian drones sound like and look like and what the explosions are like. It was like we are hitting them and they are helpless and defenseless. But that still wasn't enough. They try again, the Pakistanis, they try to launch a ballistic missile apparently at Delhi. We brought it down over Sirsa, Haryana. And once that missile was brought down by India, the missile that was aimed at Delhi, that's when all hell broke loose. I think Mr. Modi then gave the green light to the armed forces to take the Pakistanis down in whichever way they wanted. And then what happens? Within 30 minutes, India strikes 11 air bases of Pakistan, including the Noor Khan air base, including Sargodha, and so on and so forth. The Americans had never imagined, I think, that India would be able to do that. India rendered the Pakistanis completely helpless, destroyed their air defenses, wiped out their radars, took down their AWACS, one of their AWACS aircraft, cratered all the runways. The Pakistanis are helpless. And they went begging to the US. And they probably must have threatened the US, we'll use nuclear weapons. Yeah, you want to try that? Do you have the means to deliver them? India takes everything down. India's air defense works, unlike the Pakistani air defense. So that's where the Americans stepped in. Right? After all this happened. Now, how is it in America's interest to prevent India from destroying Pakistan? Pakistan is valuable for the Americans. Pakistan is an entity that has been created to serve the Western geopolitical interest in the subcontinent and beyond. This entire region. And Pakistan has been very valuable for the US in the past, multiple times. Pakistan was the staging base for the jihad against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan in the 1970s and 80s. Pakistan was a staging base for the terrorism against India in Punjab in the 1980s. Pakistan was a staging base for the terrorism in Kashmir against India, the 1980s, 1990s, and all the way until now. This terrorism, like the Pakistani defense minister has said multiple times, Pakistan was doing the dirty work on behalf of the US and the UK and the West. Isn't Pakistan valuable? Who taught terrorism to Pakistan? How to use terrorism as a tool of state policy? Who taught this? The Americans did. Pakistan is valuable. There have been times when the Americans had no interest in Pakistan and let the Pakistanis go to the Chinese for a decade or so. But the Americans still value Pakistan. Pakistan needs to keep on existing. If Pakistan ceases to exist, in the whole balance of power in the subcontinent region and Asia changes completely. And India becomes way more powerful suddenly. How can you allow that to happen? So yes, it was in the American interest to maintain the status quo and the balance of power in the region. Otherwise, India becomes much larger than they are comfortable with, much more confident than the Americans are comfortable with. That's why the Americans saved Pakistan. All right, next question. What's the next question? Geopolitical Dubey says, is Trump's Make in America practically possible? Are we seeing a typical US president who wants to remain the sole superpower? I mean, if you are the president of the sole superpower, you want the nation to remain the sole superpower. Why would you want to share your greatness with others? Why would you want others to become great? It makes no sense for the only hegemon in the world to want all other hegemons to pop up? Why would you want that? It makes no sense. So he's a typical US president. Of course he is. And he wants the US to remain the sole superpower. And if I was in his place, I would want the same thing. If I was the president of the only superpower on the planet, I would want my nation to remain the only superpower on the planet. Why will I want others to pop up and become competitors and challengers to my hegemony? I would not want that. Think about it logically. So, uh, Trump is exactly that sort of president, as he should be. Every leader needs to look out for his nation's interest. That's how the world works. And if he's not doing that, he's not serving his nation. He's not doing his job. So he's doing his job well. Well or not so well is a different question, but he's doing his job. So we are seeing that. Of course, we are seeing that, and that's what we should expect. Now, is make in America practically possible? A lot of it is not practically possible because it's too expensive to make in America. First of all, they have lost the ability to manufacture a lot of the stuff they are having manufactured in China, because for decades they had everything. They were relying on China from the 1980s and 90s and 2000s and until all the way until now. Everything was manufactured in China. It was much cheaper to make it in China. So the Americans just moved their manufacturing chains away from the US, and now they've lost the ability to do all that, to replicate the manufacturing all over again in the US. You know, and I'm sure with given some time, they can put it back all together and start manufacturing everything once again in the US. But in the US, manufacturing is way more expensive than having something manufactured in the 1990s and 2000s in China or today in India, because the the hourly wages in the US are way higher than the rest of the world, much of the rest of the world, and everything is much more expensive in the US. So it makes no sense for them to have everything manufactured in the US, because it's going to hurt their economy very badly. It's going to hit the common person very badly. So practically, it's very difficult for them to make this happen. But with the decoupling the world is seeing, with the bifurcation, the ongoing possible bifurcation of the world order, in which the half the world will be pro-US and pro-West, and half the world will be, or some part of the world will be with China, Russia, etc., and some nations will be in between. Then, when this happens, you need to bring everything, all the manufacturing, all the supply chains, everything into under your umbrella. So the world supply chains, the world's manufacturing chains, and everything, everything is splitting into essentially two camps, right? So when you have that situation, it's going to be a painful process of decoupling and the bifurcation and that sort of thing. So that's what we are seeing. It's going to be a time of turmoil. It's going to be turmoil in the US. The people of the US are going to take financial hits. It's going to be uncomfortable for them. Many people will suffer financially and in other ways. But that's just how it goes. It's a cyclical process in the world. Chaos and order, chaos and order. We had an unreasonably long time of not complete, but to a large extent, order in the world, the so-called Western led rules based world order, but that is a thing of the past now, as you can see. So there we have it. Rangers Wolf says, Trump recently said that I told Tim Cook we're not interested in new building in India. They can take care of themselves, despite India's offer to drop US import tariffs. Why the disinterest? This is not disinterest. Trump is upset with India for some reason. I think Trump had never expected that India would hit Pakistan so badly and so hard. And apparently, when India conducted those airstrikes on the various Pakistani air bases, including air bases that housed F-16s and various other American aircraft, it's possible that some American personnel were affected by those airstrikes. Because wherever you have American planes, wherever the Americans have F-16s and other planes in Pakistan, they have a bunch of babysitters at each airbase. You see, there's a bunch of technicians and other people at each airbase that houses F-16s, and those people will never never let the F-16s off their eyes, off their sight. Okay, they are always there. That's how it works. If you buy American equipment, you never really own it. You're simply leasing it, essentially. So there's a bunch of people at every Pakistan airbase that has F-16s or other American planes, and those people are constantly supervising what's happening. And if you hit an airbase that has American aircraft, it's possible you may end up hitting American personnel. So that's also something that may have happened, and so on. So the Americans, they have they want every nation to play a certain role as per their interests. and India was threatening to uh, get off the reservation, and not stay in its lane. And we kind of went off reservation, and we broke the lane, right? So that's why the Americans are upset, and that's why Trump is upset. And I think Trump is also upset that India is negotiating really hard when it comes to the trade and tariff talks. India is negotiating hard. India is not proving to not be a pushover. So all these things are making Trump unhappy. He is used to people giving him a lot of too much respect. He wants everybody to be super deferential to him. And when he doesn't see that, when he feels that people are not sufficiently differential to him, he becomes really upset. I think that's what's happening with Netanyahu. You see, I think Trump feels that Netanyahu is not giving him sufficient respect, and that's why the relationship with Netanyahu seems to have soured. One also hears that Trump is also uh, finding Elon Musk to be a problem, because Elon Musk is more successful than Donald Trump, and Elon Musk is way richer than Donald Trump. And Trump feels threatened when you have somebody like that in the same room as him. So Trump is a very sensitive guy. He's a very egoistic guy, um, and that's the sort of character and personality he has. And so if somebody doesn't play the role he wants them to play, he gets upset. So right now he's upset with India, and well, that's his problem, not ours, right? So he's trying to pressurize his own companies like Apple to not manufacture in India. So what's it going to be then? Does he want them to go back to China, or does he see some other nation on the horizon that can manufacture things at the same scale as India or China? I think the only nation that can replace China in the scale at which it manufactures is India. So it makes sense for Apple and other American companies who are looking for alternatives beyond China. It makes sense for these companies to manufacture in India. So I think Trump is just trying to pressurize India. Trump has a track record of being a guy who will say one thing today and say something which is exactly the opposite of that tomorrow. He displays zero consistency, and he's proud of it. It's part of his playbook. If you read his book, The Art of the Deal, and if you go through all the phone calls and conversations and whatnot he describes in that book, it's just like that. It's all about putting pressure on the other guy, pressurizing the other guy. So that's the game he plays. So it's just a passing phase with Trump, right? And he's a guy who's supremely transactional. He will deal with the devil if need be. If Osama bin Laden was still alive today, he would have made a deal with Osama possibly, because until recently, the so-called president of Syria, Mr. Al-Sharah or whatever his name is, Julani, that fellow, he was an FBI wanted terrorist. There's a poster of the FBI out there, still out there in the public domain, in which he's wanted, and there's a $10 million bounty on his head. And yesterday or day before yesterday, Trump posed for photographs with that guy, with that terrorist, with that wanted terrorist. So that's the kind of game the Americans play. That's the kind of guy Trump is. He will make a deal with the devil if it suits suits him. So that's how it is, right? So that's the kind of president the US has today, and perhaps is still better than Biden for us. So we'll see. Look, at the end of the day, India is on its own. We are a nation who has no master. We are not like Pakistan, which is a mercenary nation. Pakistan always serves foreign masters, doesn't it? At times it serves multiple foreign masters. China, it serves China, it serves the US, it also serves Turkey, right? So when you are a nation like Pakistan who has many foreign masters, then lots of people will stand with you, especially people for whom you serve a certain purpose, or especially people for whom you have a certain value as a mercenary nation. When it comes to India, we don't have any masters. So that's why very few people stand with us in the manner that people stand with Pakistan, right? But we have way more goodwill in the world than Pakistan does. So that's how it goes. But that's the thing about Trump. He will make a deal with the devil if it suits him today. If it suits him today, tomorrow he'll say it had nothing to do with me. That's the kind of guy Trump is. Dhruv says, why is Israel showing affinity towards India despite openly sponsoring Kuki separatists on their soil? Israel has not supported Kuki terrorism openly. Whatever has been done very, very covertly. And maybe there's a lot of plausible deniability about this. So a former Israeli ambassador was telling me, what are you talking about? When I had raised the question on Republic TV with Arnab, I had said that, some of this terrorism that's coming into Manipur, the cookie terrorism, some of the cookies are getting money from Israel, because there are uh, cookies who have settled in Israel become citizens by claiming to be Jews. The same people who eat pork, whose favorite food is pork. So they have become Jews. They've settled in Israel. They've acquired citizenship, and some of them are supporting the cookie terrorism in India. Some of them are even possibly even funding cookie terrorism in India, right? So I had raised that issue on Republic TV a few months ago, and the former Israeli ambassador was telling me what's the evidence. So he was playing the plausible deniability card. Now it's possible that it's possible, I would say, that the Israeli government may possibly have nothing to do with this. Uh, so so it's a complicated situation. They have genuine plausible deniability. That if somebody is doing it, these are private individuals. It has nothing to do with Israel's state policy, that sort of thing. And do we have any evidence that it's Israel's state policy to support Project K, Cookie Land for Christ? We don't have a shred of evidence that it's Israeli state policy to do that. But I'm sure the Israeli government can kind of uh, have those people tone it down. For example, recently the Israeli government had invited various Indian so-called influencers to Israel, okay, to show what's happening vis-a-vis Gaza and all that, in the aftermath of the October uh, uh, terrorist attack, Hamas terrorist attack on Israel. So apparently one hears that they brought a cookie ethnicity rabbi to put forth the cookie perspective or something, which is, I would say, almost blatant and open interference in India's internal affairs. So Israel has had this undeniable track record. But overall, if you look at the overall big picture perspective, so when we are talking about the Cookie Land for Christ project K, and interference in India's internal affairs and soft support for cookie terrorism, etc., well, that we are talking about a subset of India, right? We're talking about a small part of India's far east. Manipur is a very important state, but geographically it's a small region, even though it's a very important region. It's our gateway to Southeast Asia and so on, and the last bastion of Hinduism in India's far east, and so much more. Uh, so it's very valuable for us. But from a big picture perspective, Manipur is a small issue. Many people would say that, people who have no understanding, right? So from a big picture perspective, Israel's interests are significantly convergent with India's interests in a lot of ways. Not in Armenia, Azerbaijan. In that case, India and Israel are on opposite sides. So you see, the world is complicated. But overall, Israel has had overall the policy of supporting India in a lot of things. And when it comes to things like Pakistan and Turkey and all, they probably will support India, even though they are with Turkey when it comes to Azerbaijan's very complicated world that we live in. But if you understand what goes where, then you will understand why it works. All right. Okay. Jenil says, currently the entire population of Pakistan occupied Kashmir is radicalized. If we take over POK in the near future, don't you think it will be hell dealing with guerrilla warfare and human rights groups? I'm sure we have a contingency plan for this, right? The Americans have a contingency plan for Pakistan's nuclear weapons. It's They have a plan of what to do in a worst case scenario where the Pakistani nation breaks up and the nuclear weapons could very quickly, rapidly, possibly fall into the hands of terrorist groups and start floating around with terrorists. What do you do in this scenario? The Americans have contingency plans for this worst case scenario. So I am sure the government of India also has contingency plans of what to do when in the future, when at a future date, Pakistan occupied Kashmir returns to becoming part of India. Uh, you know, so what do you do in the situation? Because we know that the population is, as you rightly say, seriously radicalized. Most of them probably want us dead. So what do you do with the population? There must be contingency plans. Now, what we should do about this, I would rather not tell you in public, and so I will say that I think we should leave it to the government of India to deal with this. But you're right; it's an issue. It's an issue that we should take very seriously whenever it happens. Geopolitical Dubey says, is Trump receiving gifts from Qatar or is he receiving bribes from Qatar? Well, gifts, bribes, potato, tomato, same thing, right? As the president of a country, or as the leader of a country, president, prime minister, whatever, king, whatever it is, you need to ensure that there are no conflicts of interest, right? Your personal interests should stay separate from your nation's interests. And as the leader of a country, you have to keep your personal interests aside and work towards the nation's interests, the interests of the nation. And I'm sure mostly Trump does that. But it's also interesting that he has got lots of personal business interests in the Gulf region. His family operates lots of businesses. All his close relatives are involved in a variety of businesses, and those business interests are front and center in the Middle East, in West Asia, in all these countries. And it helps if the president receive if the president feels happy about a country because they've given him a $400 million jet aircraft, right? So yeah, he has received a gift from Qatar, from the nation of Qatar, roughly $400 million jet aircraft. And yeah, if that brings goodwill, then maybe it's worth the price. uh, So let's say you give him a gift worth $400 million, but in return, his family interests $40 billion. Then it's like 100 times. It pays you back 100 times, right? So if that sort of thing happens, even if they invest not 40 billion but just 4 billion, even then it's a 10x return on investment. Even if they invest just 1 billion and you had to spend 400 million for that, that's a 2.5x return on investment. So I'm sure there are calculations that go into this. And if you understand how Trump works, then you can use that to your advantage. So that's how it goes in the world. That's how it goes. um, Ankita says, do you think the nature of war has changed a lot? Of course, it has changed significantly compared to the 20th century. It has changed significantly compared to the time of the Kargil War, 1999 or something. It wasn't it? The Kargil War. There was like that's a whole different era, right? Compared to where we are today in war fighting terms. Even the 2019 India Pakistan clash, it was very brief. But even then, the way you fought war, today's war fighting methods are very different from that. A lot has changed in just 5 years. It was visible for the first time. This new way of fighting war, it was visible for the first time during the 2020 Artsakh conflict, the Nagorno Karabakh latest version of the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, in which Azerbaijan used a variety of loitering drones, kamikaze drones, etc. To and they used it very effectively. And the world sat up and took notice of what was happening. Then in 2022, Mr. Putin launched the special military operation in Ukraine, and then once again you started seeing so many different technologies that had never seen the light of day in a battle space before. But you saw that you had all kinds of drones, loitering drones, kamikaze drones, anti-drone technologies, anti-drone innovations. Put a nest of wires and stuff on top of a tank, and it can save the tank from the drone, to a certain extent at least, save some lives and possibly save the vehicle, and so on. You saw all kinds of innovations. AI came into the field, robotics came into the field, drone warfare came into the field, into the field of battle, and so much more. So you can see the direction in which war fighting was going. And I have been saying for quite some time that India needs to ensure it's not left behind. And to my utter delight and considerable surprise, we have absorbed all the lessons of the Armenia Azerbaijan conflict and the Ukraine conflict, and we are actually possibly at the forefront of of how this new way of war is done. So we have used drones to extremely good effect vis-a-vis Pakistan, and we have ensured that no Pakistani drone has been successful in hitting an Indian target. So we have the offensive as well as defensive capabilities nailed down. Obviously, it's gonna have to keep on evolving, because now the world has seen how India operates in battle, and now the world will learn. and they will try and find ways of countering it. So it's a cat and mouse game. We have to keep on evolving, keep on learning, keep on seeing that now the world knows that we can do these things. So let's do something else. Let's develop some other capabilities. Let's improve the capabilities and so on. So the nature of war fighting has changed a lot. Um, uh, Fighter aircraft are increasingly gonna be a last resort kind of thing. In the past, what used to happen is that you used to take out the enemy air defenses using fighter aircraft, possibly, or using missiles, then use fighter aircraft for air superiority and air dominance. And today it's different. Today you start with drones, you start with missiles, you neutralize all your enemy's air defenses and other things using drones and missiles. And then when the airspace is sanitized and the enemy is helpless, that's when you use fighter planes to do further strikes. And we didn't see the next iteration of warfare, when you would have an actual physical infantry advance with tanks or whatever, and what role drones and fighter planes and missiles will play in giving cover to your advancing armed forces, infantry and mechanized forces. So we haven't seen that thus far, but I'm sure that we have all that covered as well. So the nature of war has changed a lot. We also have other means of fighting war, which is the propaganda war, which also includes cyber warfare. And I hear that India is remarkably good at cyber warfare capabilities. Also, we have never demonstrated that, but yeah, I'm genuinely, seriously, pleasantly surprised. Really surprised. I'm actually quite shocked at how good, how well we have embraced the changing nature of warfare. And we have actually surprised the world with that. Very good to see that. Okay. Ayush Gupta says, does the US have an alternative nation other than Pakistan? Or can any other nation drop down to the level of Pakistan? Okay, you're asking, does the US have other vassal states in addition to Pakistan? Every single member of NATO is a US vassal state. Every single member of the European Union is a US vassal state. Now, what's a vassal state, you may ask? I use that term a lot. I think I am the one person in the world who has repopularized the term vassal state. Now everyone uses that. But I was using it when no one else was using it. And I seemingly have popularized the term vassal state. What does it mean when I say that so and so nation is America's vassal state or China's vassal state? What does it mean? It means, so if you say that Pakistan is America's vassal state, it means that America has taken away some of Pakistan's sovereignty. Now, what does that mean? What does sovereignty mean? Or if I say that the UK is America's vassal, it means that UK has lost sovereignty to the US to a large extent, to a certain extent. So if you have a sovereignty score of 1, it means you are fully sovereign. But if you have a sovereignty score of, let's say, 0.6, it means you have lost 40% of your sovereignty. If you have a sovereignty score of 0.2, it means you've lost 80% of your sovereignty. What does it mean to lose sovereignty? What does sovereignty mean is the question now, right? What does sovereignty mean? Sovereignty means you have full control over your nation and everything that happens to it. So what does it mean to lose sovereignty? Consider the NATO nations. When you become a member of NATO, you sign agreements, you sign an alliance treaty, and the effect of that is that you have to hand over control of your military, of your armed forces, to the NATO Central Command. Now, the NATO Central Commander, the overall head, whatever, the director or whatever it is, maybe a German, maybe a Swede, maybe a French person, maybe a British person, but the real power always lies with the US through a variety of means. So, if you become a member of NATO, you lose control to a significant extent over your own armed forces. And the payoff is that you don't have to spend so much on defense anymore. The Americans will guarantee your defense. Okay? That sort of thing. If you become a member of the European Union, you lose sovereignty in other ways. You lose control over your own economy because you no longer have a currency of your own. You have to use a currency that's controlled by the EU central bank or whatever it is. So you lose control over your economy. Secondly, you lose control over your territorial integrity because you no longer have borders. Your borders are open. You no longer can control who comes in and who comes out. Right? So you lose economic sovereignty, you lose territorial sovereignty, you also lose political sovereignty, because now you have to accept whatever policies are framed in Brussels. You can no longer decide what policies will be implemented in your nation. Brussels will decide now. So you lose sovereignty. You become a vassal of whoever controls the EU, of whoever controls NATO. In the case of Japan, they are a vassal of the US because the US physically occupies them. The US has more than 130 permanent military bases on Japanese soil. So it's under permanent US military occupation. Same goes for South Korea and so on. So and when it comes to various African nations, you can turn them into vassals by simply buying the dictator. Let's say there is a military dictator in some small African nation, and that African nation is rich in resources, copper and lithium and whatnot. I want those resources. So what I do is I talk to the guy, the military dictator. I say that, you know what, I'll send you whatever arms you need. You buy whatever arms you need from me. I'll give you at a discount, and I'll guarantee your safety. And I'll even give you X number of $1 million per year in bribes. And I'll treat you with respect in the international stage. All you have to do is open up your nation's resources to me. I'll plunder them, and you become my guy. So that's how you prop up dictators all over Africa, and you turn these nations into vassal states. And then you can plunder the natural resources, and you get the full complete license to do that, or whatever other thing you want to exploit from that nation. So that's how you turn nations into vassal states. When it comes to Pakistan, Pakistan is useful as a mercenary nation. They are willing to serve you as a terrorist entity for a price. That's what they did in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, all the way until very recently. So the US has lots of alternatives, but when it comes to the Indian subcontinent and the conjunction of the Indian subcontinent region with the West Asia region, Pakistan is the only nation in that geographical location, which is why it is very valuable and indispensable. And that's why when it comes to keeping India off balance and targeting India, the US has no alternative except for Pakistan. And if Pakistan disintegrates or ceases to exist, then the US will lose a very valuable asset, and India will rise significantly, because the whole balance of power in the region changes. And that's why Pakistan is invaluable. Can any other nation drop down to the level of Pakistan? Well, I'm sure there are many nations who would love to be as valuable as Pakistan, but let's say East Pakistan, Bangladesh, they're trying to play that role, but they don't have the wherewithal to do that, because I don't think, I mean, if you train them, they also have harbored Pakistani terrorists in the past. They also, in the past, when that other individual woman was in charge, Khalida Zia, she was very anti-India. They used to give refuge to Indian separatists who were either funded by Pakistan or the US or China. They would give refuge to those Indian separatists on their soil, and they also played such a role. But because they don't have nuclear weapons and all that, they can't rise or drop to the level of Pakistan, and so on. All right. Okay. McLevin says the US and China have agreed to a 90-day truce on the tariff war. At the same time, India notifies the World Trade Organization of its intention to retaliate with tariffs on the US. Is the US, China, and Pakistan, are these three nations joining hands against India? There's the question. See, the US and China have this ongoing trade war. The US imposed 145% tariffs on the Chinese, and the Chinese retaliated by imposing 125% tariffs on the US. But while all this was going on, it looks like these two nations were negotiating through back channels. Right? So now they have agreed all of a sudden to this 90-day truce, and they've brought the tariffs down to whatever percentage, 15%, 20%, 25%, whatever it is. Right? So they seem to have worked things out, and they were talking to each other. Right? And India seems to be playing tough with the US, and Trump is definitely not pleased. If you try to arm twist India too much, India will obviously respond in some way, in a reasonable way. So that's what India is doing. India will possibly, if the Americans are recalcitrant, if they are inflexible, and if they're just playing bullying, then I suppose they leave us with no choice but to play the same game. And maybe it'll hurt India a little bit more than the US, or maybe a lot more. We will see about that. But you can't just let somebody walk all over you. So that's the deal. Now, when it comes to Pakistan, the US and China both have an interest in Pakistan, don't they? right? It's a nation that's valuable to both nations. Pakistan is valuable to China as well as the US. Pakistan has in the past rendered services, given services to both China and the US. And as such, it's a valuable nation. So it looks like, I think it's a possibility. We have to consider that there is a possibility that as part of this deal that the Americans and the Chinese have struck, this 90-day truce and further negotiations, that deal, it's possible they have also had this understanding that we need to safeguard Pakistan's existence. We need to ensure that Pakistan keeps on existing because it is valuable to both of us. So it looks like the Americans and the Chinese see eye to eye when it comes to Pakistan and the need for Pakistan to continue existing. Right, and it's possible that the Chinese may have told the Americans that if you want us to agree to some kind of deal with you, then maybe you need to throw India under the bus. It's possible. All these things are possibilities. It's possible that these things happened behind the scenes. So yeah, that's what I can say. It's possible that they are joining hands against us to a certain extent. It's definitely possible, right? um, there's a question that's not over here in the live chat. It's by Professor Gautam Desiraju, a very learned gentleman. He's asked a question. uh, can Bharat leverage with China against the US with respect to trade matters? After all, they are adversary countries. uh, and that's a very interesting question that Professor Desiraju has asked. And obviously, he himself is a very learned man, and it's an honor that he has asked this question to me. So, can India leverage China with respect to the US? Because with respect to trade and other dimensions, because after all, the US and China are adversary nations. It's certainly something we can explore. Like the Americans and the Chinese were fighting each other publicly while having backdoor conversations, clearly, all these days. Uh, it's certainly something we can explore. The Chinese, in the past year and a half or so, have tried to explore the possibility of some kind of détente or rapprochement with India, because they could see the American onslaught coming towards them, right? Um, and even now, if they have some kind of understanding with the US for the time being, for the next 90 days, and even in the future, if they consolidate some kind of agreement with the US is still going to go after China. They're going to deny them technology. They're going to try and hurt China in various ways, and so on. So it makes sense that if the Americans are supporting Pakistan against India, it makes sense for us to explore options with China as well. Now we have to always remember that China is not a friendly country to us. We have to always remember that if the Chinese are given an opportunity, they will want India to fail very badly. But as long as you don't give them that opportunity, and you deal with them from a position of strength, then it's possible to have some kind of understanding with the Chinese and some kind of trust but verify level cooperation with the Chinese. The possibility exists for sure. Right. So we will have to approach the Chinese and deal with them from a position of strength. Now the Chinese will be very surprised at our performance in that 3-day war with the Pakistanis. They'll be very surprised and actually very upset that we were able to bypass the Chinese radars, destroy the Chinese radars, and render them useless. And we were able to nullify the so-called advantage the Pakistanis had of using long-range Chinese missiles. And they'll be very concerned about this. And they'll be very surprised at the performance of India's multi-layered air defense system. And they'll be very concerned about this air defense system also being present along the India-Tibet border, the undemarcated border. So the Chinese will begrudgingly be a little more respectful towards India now. They will try and not show it, but inside they'll be concerned. And the only way you can gain someone's respect if they fear you to a certain extent. And the only way you can gain China's respect is if they fear you to a certain extent. And now they certainly will have a little more fear as compared to the past about India. So you can leverage that, you can use that to your advantage, and explore the possibility of some kind of issue-based cooperation with the Chinese, let's say on certain economic domains and so on. It's something that is definitely worth doing. Okay. Geopolitical Dubey says, hypothetically asking, what if US makes Pakistan a NATO member? Well, North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the Indian Ocean region, that would be a very strange thing. But what if the Americans do that? See, first of all, there are certain conditions a nation has to meet to become a member of NATO. I don't think Pakistan meets those conditions. And if you want to become a member of NATO, you have to pass certain tests and align with certain guidelines and all that. There's a whole playbook at play that comes into play when a nation applies to become a member of NATO. And I don't have the documentation with me right now over here, but you have to abide by those conditions and you have to raise your standards to a certain level before you become a member of NATO. I don't think Pakistan is capable of doing that, of becoming a member of NATO, based on the conditions that currently exist. What the Americans have done to Pakistan is they've made it a major non-NATO ally, which is the next best thing. So it doesn't matter what tag you put on a nation, as long as the Americans favor Pakistan and have some use for it, it works fine for the Pakistanis. The Strummer says, why are the defense forces not clarifying the status of Rafales? Have we really lost them? How the hell do you care? Why are we so concerned about what the Pakistanis are claiming? The defense forces, the armed forces have said that losses are a part of battle. They have not said we have lost a Rafale. In 2019, we lost a MiG-21, we lost a helicopter which we ourselves shot down. Recently, in the fighting against the Houthis, the Americans lost some F-18s or whatever. They almost lost a F-35. These things are part of warfare, but Indians are obsessed with these things. If we lost an aircraft here or aircraft there, it means we have lost everything. I just don't get why we are so obsessed with these things. Let's say we lose an aircraft here or there. Have you seen what we did to the Pakistanis? I'm not saying we've lost a Rafale. I just don't get why Indians are obsessed and keep on harping on this thing. Move on. We beat the Pakistanis black and blue. And in case hypothetically we lost X, one of this aircraft or one of that or whatever, hypothetically, how does it matter for you? This is that nitpicking habit of Indians that is so detrimental to themselves. Indians want to criticize India. Indians want to find fault with India all the time. The armed forces should not clarify anything and leave people like this hanging. Because it's not it doesn't matter. In case we have hypothetically lost something, we will replace that. You know what's important for the military? The trained personnel are important. The amount of time it goes into training one top quality fighter pilot, you cannot measure that with money. It's worth billions of dollars. It's worth 20 Rafales. So I don't know. I have seen zero evidence that any Rafale has come down, or any Rafale or any other fighter plane has been destroyed. In today's day and age of social media, where you can't hide a thing, you saw all the coverage of all the missile strikes and drone strikes in Pakistan. You think the Pakistani military wanted all that to come out? But it came out. You can't hide a thing today. So if a Rafale or some other aircraft, fighter plane, hypothetically was shot down, let's say over Pakistani territory or Pakistani occupied territory, it would have been all over media. Didn't happen, right? But if it had happened in India, don't you think it would have come out? Don't you think people with cell phones would have shot it and put it on social media? It's impossible to hide that. Nothing has happened. But Indians will keep on harping about this. But the defense forces should clarify this. The Prime Minister should say that. I'm just tired of this, really. Indians are their own worst enemies. Seriously, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Okay, Aditya Kumar Shaw says they clarified. Recent document of Operation Sindoor clearly states that no Indian assets are lost. But Indians will not be satisfied with this. Some Indians want Indian assets to be lost. Because Pakistan said that, right? Because CNN said that. Because the white men said it. That's why something must have happened. Indians have this incredible inferiority complex. When the white man says something, it has to be true. Well, has the white man been able to show you evidence of India having lost a so-and-so asset? Have they been able to show you a shred of evidence? When you make a claim without evidence, you are lying. When you make a claim, the onus is on you who are making the claim to produce the evidence. It's not on me to show evidence that proves your claim. To hell with you, Mr. CNN. If you make a claim, you produce the evidence. They have produced no evidence. But Indians say that no, the white man said this, right? So he must be right. So we are hiding something. This is the loser mentality of Indians. This is the mental colonization. This is the inferiority complex so many Indians have. And it infuriates me no end. What can I say? Pranay says, how should India brace for the next stage of Operation Sindoor? Is balkanization of Pakistan a matter of time, or are we heading into a long war of attrition, both military and psychological? The balkanization of Pakistan is a matter of time. When the time comes, not even the Americans will be able to stop us from balkanizing Pakistan. I think it's a matter of time. Maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 3 years. At most 10 years. Pakistan, I would say, like I said, with the Pahalgam attack, the countdown started for Pakistan. The clock is ticking, it's ticking backwards, it's ticking towards zero. I'm not sure when zero arrives, but it's going to arrive soon. What about Operation Sindoor? I think Operation Sindoor is it's paused for now. That's what the Prime Minister has said, that we have paused Operation Sindoor. That's what the Raksha Mantri has said, Mr. Rajnath Singh. We have paused Operation Sindoor. The operation is not over. So we will have to we're going to keep an eye on the behavior of the Pakistanis. And if they, do any more base adventures, the operation resumes. And next time they're going to be hit even harder. So we in India need to be very careful. The Pakistanis are a terrorist nation, and they have been humiliated. Despite claiming whatever they're claiming, they've been humiliated. Their Air Force, their personnel will never forget what happened to them, how they were rendered utterly helpless while Indian aircraft flew repeated sorties over their runways, because the runways were crippled. And they lost some personnel as well, and some personnel apparently from Turkey also have been lost, and so on. So I think it's a matter of time that Pakistan is dealt with once and for all, whether the Americans like it or not. I don't think we are heading into a long war of attrition. A long war of attrition is like the Ukraine conflict. It's a slow war scenario. It's a long war scenario right now. It's just dragging on. We are not going to be drawn into that. We will have to be careful about potential Pakistani misadventures, not military but terrorist misadventures against India. It is possible, considering the Pakistani psyche and their track record, that they may attempt to launch terror attacks on Indian targets, not on the border but inside India. It's possible. So we're going to have to be cognizant of this fact, and we're going to have to prepare accordingly in our major cities and so on. And if something happens, it should be the end of Pakistan, whether Mr. Trump likes it or not. And I think we are very capable of putting an end to Pakistan in 24 hours after what we have seen. We treated them with kid gloves in that 3-day war. We could have hit them with 100 times more missiles. It's even possible that the warheads we used in the missiles were not very powerful. We could have used much more powerful warheads. I assure you, we have warheads that are way more powerful than what we have used. I'm talking about conventional warheads. I'm not talking about nuclear warheads. No civilized person talks about nuclear war unless it's a Pakistani. Then you're not civilized. So that's how I see it. Yeah. Okay. Tanay Chandra says, will the Armenians be very happy as they have bought the Pinaka and the Aakash air defense systems? So the Aakash system is an air defense system, and the Pinaka is an offensive system. It's a multi-barrel rocket launcher system that launches those huge salvos of 100 rockets at the same time, and it essentially is used to sanitize a certain square kilometers of territory. Right, so that's what the Pinaka system does. The Aakash surface-to-air missile defense system, whoever has bought it must be really, really happy, because the real superstar was the Aakash system and the L-70 system, and the whole overall integrated Indian air defense system, of which Aakash is a very important component. So the Aakash system has turned into an overnight superstar. it's you can't bypass Akash. Akash will get you, right? So whoever has bought Akash, which is Armenia, of course, they will be super happy about this. And their arch enemies, the Azerbaijanis, are gonna be worried now. Are gonna be worried. The Akash can take you down. Whether you're a fighter plane, whether you're a helicopter, or whatever else you are, Akash will take you down. So yes, uh, good that the Armenians will be happy about this. Their confidence will have risen, and I think there's going to be a significant demand now for the Akash system, and we can sell it to friendly nations certainly. Um, Okay, Uday Tej Singh says, taking into account the fact that Turkey sent its warship to Pakistan, if in another wartime situation they aggressively attack us in the Arabian Sea, will NATO Article 5 be enforced if we retaliate? I think we can retaliate and not worry about NATO Article 5. NATO Article 5 says that an attack on a NATO nation, a member state of NATO, is to be seen as an attack on on every other NATO nation. Right? So are we attacking Turkey, the territory of Turkey, if we take out a Turkish warship that's attacking us in the Indian Ocean? Let's not call it the Arabian Sea. I would call it the Sea of Saurashtra. It's not the Arabian Sea. It's part of the Indian Ocean. So if they launch an attack on India, the Turks, okay, hypothetically, in the Western Indian Ocean region, we will wipe that warship down. We'll wipe it out. We'll slice it into two with the BrahMos. I've shown you in a previous live stream what the BrahMos does to warships, to ships. It just slices ships into two. So we will do that to them. And if they started the whole thing, how can NATO blame us, right? And we're not attacking Turkey. It's not an attack on Turkey. It's an attack on a hostile warship, which may belong to Turkey. That's their problem. I don't think the Turks would be stupid enough to do any such thing. First of all, vis-a-vis us, they're simply playing that old game, right? Words versus actions. By sending a warship to Pakistan, you're giving verbal support essentially. It's actions only if the warship is deployed against India in active warfare. And the Turks won't dare do that because we will destroy their warship. They know it. Now everybody will be worried about India's capabilities. We've only shown capabilities in one domain, which is the air, especially air defense. And of course, we've shown capabilities when it comes to drones and in taking out Chinese radars and air defense systems. So we've shown a small subset of our capabilities. But now the world will be wondering, what other capabilities will these Indians have? They'll be really worried now. So if Turkey wants to play with fire, well, they are welcome to. I welcome you to play with fire, right? Shreyas says, is this the right time to implement CAA and NRC by creating a record of all citizens who are legally here and deport the illegal ones and prevent terror outfits and sleeper cells? I think if we can deport all the foreigners who are squatting on Indian territory, whether they are Rohingyas, whether they are Cookies, whether they are Pakistanis, whether they are Bangladeshis, we should deport them all. Identify each and every one of them and deport them all. That will take away a huge shadow of terror from our citizens in our country, right? When you have foreigners living in your territory, exploiting your resources and essentially terrorizing your population, and these foreigners have absolutely no affinity with or allegiance to your nation or your culture or your civilization, then they're going to be a problem. And if they have come into India illegally, they should be thrown out. It's as simple as that. It's high time the government of India does this. I think the war, this 3-day war with Pakistan, is given them the best cause, the best excuse, or whatever you want to call it, to implement this. And if the world is a problem with what we are doing, then the world be damned. It's a matter of our national security, our national interest. I think it's high time we do it. I think I'm seeing some action on that front finally. We need to make it happen fast. Imagine 100 million Bangladeshis. God knows how many tens of thousands of Pakistanis. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of Cookies, how many hundreds of thousands of Rohingyas. What the hell? Are we a nation or are we a joke? Deport all illegals at the earliest. Needs to happen. Mr. 88er says, are we going to see some cracks in the Modi-Trump relationship? You see, whenever Mr. Trump tweets about India, Mr. Modi makes it a point to very quickly, very rapidly respond to that tweet with a great amount of warmth, right? Mr. Modi has always made a point to do that. And this time, when Mr. Trump tweeted about India, Mr. Modi ignored that tweet. When Mr. Modi gave his address to the nation, he did not mention the US, he did not mention Mr. Trump's name. So I think we're already seeing it. Is it Mr. Modi's fault? Is it India's fault? I think Mr. Trump has only himself to blame for this. If he thinks he can play this game, then you know what? Nobody will trust him. He definitely suffers from a lack of trust. No one trusts him because of his behavior, his unpredictable behavior, his vacillating behavior, right? Extremely unreliable person, which makes you untrustworthy. Nobody will trust you. Obviously, everybody wants to be on his good side. Everybody wants to be differential to him. Everybody wants to be nice to him. Everyone wants to give him gifts. Some would give him fire, what jet aircraft and whatnot. But he's not seen as a reliable person because of the way he operates. Extremely transactional. So it's entirely their problem. Entirely their problem. Entirely his problem. Arjun Bandopadhyay says, how probable is war without the full IF squadron strength? It helps to have the full squadron strength, whatever it is, 32 or 38 squadrons, whatever. I don't know how much we have today. But we seem to have done the best we can, considering that gap in our capabilities. I would love to have twice the number of fighter planes we have today. But let's say we are currently in a situation where we don't have the number that we want. Then sometimes you have to, not sometimes, you have to be realistic and say, that, okay, I have this deficiency here. How can I best cover it up? So we are covering it up by increasing our offensive capabilities in other ways, which would typically have been covered using fighter planes. So we have shockingly dangerous missiles. We have shockingly efficient drones, offensive drones, and so on. So we have kind of, balanced that out with the other offensive capabilities that we have developed. So we should continue bolstering our missile strength, getting more missiles into the stockpile. We should have a stockpile of tens of thousands of missiles, actually. We should also have a stockpile of maybe tens of thousands of drones. In the meanwhile, doesn't hurt if we re-augment the number of fighter planes that we have over the next 5-6 years. So how probable is war? I think if you are dangerous, if you are scary, and if you have capabilities that scare your adversaries, then war is less probable, right? But we're talking about a rational actor here. Pakistan is not a rational actor. So you may have war again in the next 2 weeks. Who knows? It's a possibility. If they try a terrorist attack against India somewhere, then war is again guaranteed if they do that. So we will again then hit at terror camps and infrastructure within Pakistan if there's a terrorist strike on India. And given Pakistan's track record and Pakistan's psychology, psyche, and nature, I think it's a matter of time before they try something. Obviously, I will very much hope that if they try something, we foil that attempt. But even the fact that they're trying something means that they want war. So we'll see. Shastri says, how 14 Mark S-500 intercepts 20 Mach nuclear ICBM in mid-air. The S-500 and its capabilities are pretty secretive, pretty classified. The S-500 is the next generation of the S-400 system, and the S-400 is the next generation of the S-300 system. There's an S-350 also, I believe, and possibly an S-200. So it's a next generation kind of augmentation, iteration of the system. The system keeps evolving, getting better, and when there's a significant improvement, they call it the next number. So the S-500 is possibly capable of taking down ballistic missiles, possibly, and definitely cruise missiles and other aerial threats. That's what one hears, but nobody has actually seen it in action. Nobody knows actually what it is capable of. It is rumored that it can probably take out ballistic missiles and other things. We don't know how fast its missiles fly. I don't know if it's a Mach 14 missile, that one of the missiles that it has. It's possible. The fastest Russian missile that we are aware of is the Zircon missile, which for a certain, probably for the terminal phase, has a Mach 9 speed, which is 9 times the speed of sound. Probably for the terminal phase maybe for 100 seconds or maybe 200 seconds or something like that. Not sure what the exact number is. So it's a partially hypersonic missile. It's hypersonic at the end when it's going to hit the target. That's the Zircon missile. That's Mach 9. Do the Russians have a Mach 14 missile? I'm not sure. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. It's classified. ICBMs. Look, a nuclear ICBM is not different from a regular ICBM. An ICBM is an ICBM. And the speed of an ICBM is what you call re-entry speed, because it follows a parabolic path. Projectile motion, you learn that in high school in physics. So it follows a parabolic trajectory. It rises up, it exits the atmosphere, then re-enters the atmosphere, and it hits the target at close to re-entry speed, which is around 20, possibly 25 times the speed of sound. Maybe by the time it comes all the way down, its speed may reduce to a certain extent. Depends. Okay, we don't know the exact characteristics unless you are working on the system yourself. So let's say it's Mach 20 ICBM. You can take it down. If you have a track of it on the radar or through other systems, and you can see its trajectory, you can calculate where it's going to come and what path it's going to take. So 20 times the speed of sound is I'm sure it can be done through, if you have good technology. For example, if you're taking out an ASAT, if you have an ASAT system, anti-satellite weapon that you use to take out a satellite in Earth's orbit, that weapon, the kill vehicle, the terminal phase of the system, needs to be able to hit a satellite that's traveling at about 10 kilometers per second relative to where you launch the missile from. 10 kilometers per second, what's the Mach number? So Mach 1 is 333 meters per second, right? So that's Mach 1. 10 times that is 3,330 meters per second. That's 3.3 kilometers per second. That's Mach 10. Mach 20 is 6,600 meters per second. So Mach 20 is 6.6 kilometers per second. Mach 20. But the ASAT weapon that we have, it can take out a satellite which is 10 kilometers per second. So that's Mach 25, 26. Imagine that. It's possible. As you can see, we have the technology to take out an object that's traveling at essentially Mach 25, 26, give or take. Very possible. Very possible. So technology, if you have it, it's almost like magic. These objects are moving faster than flying bullets, way faster. And yet you can take them out. There you have it, friends. Fun Restored, I like the name. Fun Restored says, what should India do in manufacturing jet engines? Like, should we go with R&D or just spend hefty money to buy tech to manufacture as per the current situation? I think we should take both approaches. Whoever is willing to transfer the full jet engine technology, including the turbine blades and so on, whatever it costs, pay it and buy it and acquire the technology. At the same time, we should continue our indigenous R&D at the gas turbine research establishment and wherever else it may be happening. Buy the technology, also develop it in-house. That's what needs to happen. It has to be a two-pronged approach. So let's say we get lucky and we are able to, let's say, buy the technology for, let's say, $10 billion, a huge amount of money. Does it mean that if we now have the technology, we've bought it and we are able to replicate it, does it mean that we should stop our own research and development process, R&D process? No, we should not stop it. We should continue that as well. And maybe we should transfer some of the learnings from the technology we acquired into that. But don't stop that process. That's what we need to do. Both approaches should continue at the same time simultaneously. That's what India needs to do. Chirag says, even after becoming a $10 to $15 trillion economy, Pakistan can attack and play the nuclear card. How does this cycle end? How about using anti-satellite to destroy their news propaganda? Okay, first of all, yeah, you are right, Chirag. Even if we become in the future, when we become a $10 trillion economy, when we become a $15 trillion economy, as long as Pakistan is sitting next door, it's gonna be a problem for us. It's gonna ha- it's like having a parasite, a vampire attached to you. It's like having a permanent cancer that keeps on poisoning you, right? As long as they exist next to you, there will always be a problem. So the only way to be break free of this is to break Pakistan into pieces, to balkanize Pakistan. That's the only way to do it. That's the only way to permanently end this headache, right? So we need we need to have a new special military operation or something against Pakistan. The objective should be the balkanization of Pakistan and the denuclearization of Pakistan, and it should be done by us. So eventually, we're going to have to do it. That's the only way the cycle ends. When it comes to the news propaganda, the propaganda doesn't come from satellites, and you can't just randomly start shooting down satellites. Pakistan doesn't even have satellites. I mean, they may have one, maybe two, but that's not the propaganda machine. The propaganda machine that supports Pakistan is the Western media. It's CNN. It's whoever else. It's the BBC. Then whoever else peddles Pakistani propaganda and augments Pakistani perspectives, narratives, lies. That's the propaganda. You can't. These are human beings. These are individuals. These are journalists. These are writers. These are news readers, and so on. You can't use an anti-satellite weapon to target those people, right? So that's not how it works. The propaganda is not coming from satellites. It's definitely not coming from Pakistani satellites. It's the West that is upset. It's the West that wants to make the world believe that Pakistan has done well in the 3-day war. And why does the West want the world to believe that Pakistan has done well and India hasn't done so well? And Pakistan has been, excuse me, Pakistan has been at least the equal of India in the war. Why does the West want the world to believe this? Tell me. It's because India has either Indian weapons, Atmanirbhar, home manufactured weapons like the Aakash system and whatever else, or we have French weapons, possibly, which is the Rafale, or we have Russian weapons. And if we have succeeded, it's by using a mix of these three: Indian, Russian, and French weapons. And the US doesn't see France as a great deal of warmth and friendliness. Okay, there is tension between the US and France. It's always there below the surface. So if India uses French, Russian, and Indian weapons, and they turn out to be superior to Western weapons, American weapons, and Chinese weapons, it's a problem for the Americans. Look, they even don't like Indian weapons being better than Chinese weapons, because China is a clear and present threat, and the whole world recognizes China as a technological near superpower. But if we have weapons that are better than Chinese weapons, then we have a big problem from their perspective. They have a big problem on the horizon. There's a new power that's emerging with the technology, with the ability to develop technology that is better than Western and Chinese technology. Right? They don't want. See, and if the world starts recognizing that, then India becomes more confident. And the Indians who crave validation from Western people, they also become confident. So let's not. Most Indians have an inferiority complex. Most Indians are mentally colonized. Most Indians, if the white man says that the 3 Rafales went down or 78 Indian UFOs went down, the Indians will start questioning their own army, right? So let that happen. Bring the morale of the country down. That's the propaganda war that's being unleashed against India at all times, during the Ukraine war, during the 3-day India-Pakistan war, and so on. The West will always take the other guy's side, right? So you can't use anti-satellite weapons to destroy that propaganda. Do you understand? You have to counter their fake news narrative with your own true news narrative. That's how it works. All right. Tina Yadav says, Dr. S. Jaishankar said that we informed Pakistan at the start of Operation Sindoor. Isn't it stupid? What? We informed Pakistan at the start of Operation Sindoor. Isn't that stupidity? What's my perspective, point of view? Did our foreign policy fail because nobody took a firm stand for us? Look, I don't know what the media is reporting. I saw some kind of tweet some time ago, and lots of people are now raising this objection and raising this point, that why that apparently it looks like apparently the tweet and the news snippet is quoting Dr. Jaishankar as having said that we told Pakistan at the beginning of Operation Sindoor that we are hitting terrorist camps. I don't think India did such thing. Just like Donald Trump said that I have mediated between India and Pakistan, and India and Pakistan have agreed to hold talks and negotiations at a neutral venue. That's what Donald Trump said. But the truth is, he has done no such thing, and India and Pakistan have not agreed to hold negotiations at a neutral venue. That's fake news, right? So similarly, sometimes you can tell lies if required. It doesn't mean that you actually did that. So please understand the difference between words and actions. In diplomacy, in international relations, etc., you can use words to your advantage. You can use words to create a certain narrative. You can use lies to create a certain narrative. Now, India's motto is Satyamev Jayate, which is a really stupid motto actually, because no Indian follows that motto. Most Indian politicians do the opposite. Most, not all, but most, right? And the world doesn't work on the principle of Satyamev Jayate. You have to lie a lot of the times in the world, especially when you are serving your national interest. So Trump clearly lied about the claims that he made. So why can't we lie sometimes? I think it's possible that we are playing with words and possibly pushing the boundaries of what is true and what is untrue to create a certain narrative. It's possible. So why are we attacking our own foreign minister? We won the conflict, right? I do not believe for 1 second that India telephoned Pakistan and said that, you know what, in 5 minutes we're going to launch attacks. If we had done that, the attacks possibly would have failed. Don't you people have that much understanding that if we had told the Pakistanis even 5 minutes before we launched the attack on the terrorist camps, then the Pakistanis would have scrambled their fighter planes and done whatever they could. And maybe our loitering drones, which calmly took the videos of the strikes, maybe they would have been shot down. So maybe we are using the good old words versus actions game. Maybe we are putting out false news, fake news. Maybe we're trying to create a certain narrative for the world's consumption. Let us not get all hyperactive about these things. We know that the Pakistanis have been lying about a lot of things, right? Why can't we lie sometimes? Why do we have to always speak the truth? Can't we all be a little more mature? In the pursuit of the national interest, it is okay to lie if required. Something that is worth fighting for, it is worth lying for. It is worth fighting dirty for. Please develop some more maturity, right? Please. Words versus actions. We took a certain set of actions and now we are saying some words. The actions are done. Now let's play the game of words. If required, let's mislead the world in the pursuit of our interests. So I know lots of Indians right now are saying, oh, Jaishankar did this, Jaishankar did that, we should have done something else. Please grow the hell up. Children, what are we, third standard kids here? Eris Manticore says, Pakistanis raise their kids to hate the existence of India. Unfortunately, it's true. While we raise pigs for slaughter who are unaware of the nefarious intentions of our neighbor, an Indian YouTuber was brainwashed by the ISI recently. Yeah, what can I say? Indians are super naive. Indians are super gullible. Indians crave external validation. Indians have an inferiority complex. I think even some Indians even have an inferiority complex vis-a-vis Pakistan. There are many Indians who think that Pakistanis are more handsome than us. Pakistanis are taller than us. Pakistanis are stronger than us, and so on. I just can't get how incredibly mentally colonized Indians are, how much of an incredible inferiority complex Indians have. And such people are so easy to manipulate. right? So this Indian YouTuber that you're talking about, I'm not sure who it is, but yeah, you will see lots of people falling for these various kinds of ploys, whether it's a so-called honey trap or whether it's something else. Lots of Indians fall for these things, and the truth is, it's not only Indians who fall for this. Even the other side can be made to fall for it. Okay. Anyway, Dhruv Dhuria says, recently I saw a video of the the Air Force Chief of India, saying that we are not able to deliver 40 Tejas aircrafts in 8 years. And I hope that statement of the chief of the Air Force, the head of the Air Force, it hopefully gave a kick on the backside of those who are supposed to manufacture those Tejas aircrafts. Right? I hope so. He was absolutely right. We need to gear up. We need to ramp up our production. We should be we should be manufacturing 40 Tejas fighter planes in 1 year, not 40 in 8 years. It's a question of the national security, right? It's a question of the nation's interests. So I think it's high time for whoever manufactures the Tejas aircrafts, DRDO, HL, whoever it is, to do what they're supposed to do your job and do it right. Dokebaz says, how come the Sukhoi 57 is the fifth generation fighter plane, but it's still 40% the cost of the F-35? The F-35 is an overpriced piece of trash. It's an overpriced flying trash can. They have spent incredible amounts of money to produce a substandard aircraft. Now, I don't know how good or bad the Su-57 is. Maybe it doesn't have all the great characteristics that the F-35 has, but the Russians won't waste so much money. They don't have the kind of money the Americans have. So obviously they made it in a much better way. Look, let me give you an appropriate comparison. The Hollywood movie Gravity cost $100 million to make. But we sent a spacecraft to Mars in less than the cost of that one movie about it's a science fiction movie about going to space. So that's the kind of money the Americans have compared to what we have. So we can send an actual spacecraft to Mars in less money than it costs to make a Hollywood movie, right? So it's possible. Anything's possible. I'm not sure how good or bad the Sukhoi 57 is, but I'm value for money wise, it's way better, I'm sure, than the F-35. Okay. Savaria Seth says, what are the advantages of ballistic missiles over cruise missiles? Okay, the rest of it, I don't know what it means. What's the advantage of a ballistic missile over a cruise missile? Cruise missiles are like aircraft. It's like cruise missiles are you can think of a cruise missile as being like a pilotless aircraft. There's no human being inside it. It's been given a target. It knows where to go. And it's on a suicide mission. It's on a kamikaze mission. So it's going to go and slam into the target. And it's got a warhead, which will then explode. That's a cruise missile. So a cruise missile flies like an aircraft. Okay, it flies at maybe whatever altitude you want it to, maybe 10 kilometers like a regular aircraft. Maybe it's a sea skimming missile or a ground hugging missile, which means it's maybe flying 50 feet above the ground, or if it's flying over the sea, maybe it's 20 feet above the sea or something, to keep a low profile and evade radar detection. But cruise missiles typically fly much slower than ballistic missiles. A cruise missile, if it's a supersonic one like the BrahMos, it's Mach 2.8, nearly almost 3 times the speed of sound. If it's the Nirbhay, no, not the Nirbhay, what is it? I think the Nirbhay missile, which is a subsonic cruise missile, well, that would fly slower than the speed of sound. So each missile has a different role and purpose. The advantage of a cruise missile is that it can fly low and it can remain undetected if detected. And ballistic missiles, they have a completely different flight path. They have a parabolic flight path, and they enter at extremely high. They re-enter the atmosphere after exiting it at extremely high velocities. So most nations don't have the technological means to take out a ballistic missile because it comes in so fast. It re-enters so fast. Cruise missiles have a different flight path. Ballistic missiles have a different flight path, and they're used for different means. The longest range of a cruise missile may be like 3,000. 3,000 kilometers maybe. Typically, cruise missiles have a range of maybe, for example, certain versions of the BrahMos have a range of about 300 kilometers. Some versions of the BrahMos are rumored to have a range of 1500 kilometers, rumored to. Okay. And the Nirbhay seems to have a range of 1200 or 1500 kilometers, and so on. There may be longer range cruise missiles. So cruise missiles have a certain range beyond which they can't go. Ballistic missiles, depending on how much fuel and whatever else you put into them, can have an intercontinental range. So you can launch a ballistic missile from, let's say, somewhere in India, and you can have it hit Antarctica hypothetically if you want. That's way, way far away. Or any other continent that you can imagine. I'll not take names because it's a nasty thing to say, but that sort of thing. So ballistic missiles have essentially in almost unlimited range, depending on how much fuel, etc., you place into them and the size of the missile and so on. So that's the difference. Ballistic missiles have advantages. Cruise missiles have their own advantages. The Russians have a certain weapon system that they announced in 2019, which is a nuclear-powered cruise missile, which is not the same as a cruise missile with a nuclear warhead. This uses nuclear power for propulsion, nuclear propulsion. So it's got a nuclear ramjet. The BrahMos has a ramjet, but it's got a chemical ramjet. This Russian weapon system, apparently cruise missile, has a nuclear powered ramjet. So it's got essentially unlimited range. It can fly 20 times around the world before hitting its target if it wants to. It can loiter for days possibly before it wants to. So that's a different kind of cruise missile. But that too is a cruise missile. So missiles come in various classes, various capabilities, and so on and so forth. And depending on what your objectives are, you can use other ballistic missiles or cruise missiles, or subsonic cruise missiles, or supersonic cruise missiles, or hypersonic cruise missiles. You can even use MIRV equipped ballistic missiles to ensure you really strike a target. You can use MARV equipped ballistic missiles, warheads, and so on. Lots of things. So it's pretty complicated, but it all depends on what you want to achieve and who the adversary is and what their air defense capabilities are like. Advait says the media never shows any headline that the US lost so and so. They had 7 to 8 MQ-9 Reaper drones, 3 FA-18s, and F-16, and they almost lost F-35 to the Houthis, who are not even professional soldiers. You see, the Americans lose equipment all the time. They lose their most advanced drones. They lose FA-18 fighter planes. They lose F-16s. They even lose F-35s once in a while here and there. But nobody makes a hue and cry about that. But if the Pakistanis claim that the so-and-so Indian aircraft came down, then Indians start making a hue and cry about this. Indians, they lack a proper perspective on the world. That in warfare, you're going to have losses of equipment. It's part of the game. It's part of the deal. It's something you have to absorb. It's something you have to accept. If you can't take any loss in war, then you are not a nation that's serious. That's not a nation that deserves success. And we are a nation that deserves success. But the population, a significant percentage of the population has these ideas that if we lose one aircraft, then it doesn't matter if we hit 20 Pakistani air bases. We lost one aircraft, which means that we are the losers of the war. That's the kind of attitude Indians have. Indians are so easy to mentally manipulate by the West. So that's something that is a huge deficiency in India. Indians lack self-confidence. Indians have an inferiority complex. And it is not the fault of the Indians that they are like this. It's the education system that's done this to them. The education system has never inculcated any sense of pride or self-confidence in the people of India. That's why it's so easy to mislead and manipulate Indians. So Advait is completely right. See how much equipment the Americans have lost in the last few months. But no one speaks about that. Right? I will take no more questions about the alleged Rafale thing. Raf says, what about the nuclear warheads that went missing from us? I can assure you none of our nuclear warheads are missing. I don't know what you've heard of and where you heard it from, but I can assure you that none of our nuclear warheads are missing, right? Okay. Arkamanna says, after India destroyed the Chinese air defense system, now the quality of Chinese air defense has been exposed to the world. Is China going to do some mischievous acts against us? I mean, they can try if they want to. What can they do? It's not our fault that their air defense systems and radars are substandard. It's not our fault, right? If they had done the job they were supposed to do, then maybe we would have had a tougher time in the 3-day war against Pakistan. So we had no ill intentions towards Pakistan, towards China. It's China's own fault that their systems did not work, right? So if they are upset, they need to introspect. Apparently, they had sold their best air defense systems to the Pakistanis, and see what happened. I think they should be very worried if they had any plans of going to war with India, or trying to test India's capabilities. Uh, so it's entirely their fault, whatever's happened, right? And if they want to do something mischievous against us, well, they can try. And apparently, it looks like our technology is superior to theirs, so they can try. Yeah, they're welcome to, I would say. Uh, right now, the Strummer 1989 says, instead of humans, can we use robots on the war fronts? Are our organizations taking any steps towards making this a possibility? Uh, Considering what we have seen during the 3-day special military operation against Pakistan, Operation Sindoor, I think it's quite possible that we have organizations that are doing all kinds of stuff, but away from the public eye. It's possible that we are doing stuff, that we are taking steps in various directions that involve robotics and AI and such systems. It's very possible. We have the best minds in the world, no question about it, right? So it's certainly possible. It's certainly going to happen in the future. It's going to be increasingly the case that we're going to have more and more robotic systems and AI enabled systems in the battlefield. And eventually, maybe in 10 years, maybe before that, maybe later, eventually you may have wars that are fought entirely between robotic armies. It's possible. Be going in that direction. So right now, if you see the advances in robotics, uh, you have robots that can now stack shelves in commercial establishments. For example, if you have a warehouse, like let's say an Amazon warehouse or something, then robots can stack the shelves and transport one bundle from another and one package from another one place to another, and so on. Robots can do that. Robots are increasingly able to do things that humans can do, and very soon you're going to have warehouses that are entirely staffed by robots, not a single human being, because robots typically, they don't make mistakes. Humans get tired and they can lose concentration, or have lapses of concentration, or if you're in a bad mood, you can make more mistakes, and so on. Robots don't have that issue, right? So very soon we're going to have warehouses and other things, establishments like that are entirely operated by robots. Similarly, the same thing will happen in the battlefield. You're going to have robot soldiers, you're going to have robot dogs, you're going to have robotic drones, you're going to have AI enabled systems. It's all going to happen. We are going in that direction. And I'm pretty sure, after what I've seen in the 3-day military operation against Pakistan, that we are taking this extremely seriously. We, as in India. So yeah, I'm now pretty confident. Let's not be overconfident, but yeah, I think we're going on the right in the right direction. In the right direction. Now, Shri Ramachandraya Namaha says, how is India using the Andaman and Nicobar Islands to make it a naval power and air force base? Well, what are we doing? I think we are constructing a big port, a transshipment facility in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. That's one thing we're doing. We have probably, if I mean anybody can see this, we haven't opened the map today. It's been 1 hour 35 minutes. I haven't opened the map. What's going on these days? Let's take a look at what's available in the public domain. So I'm only showing what anybody can see. Okay, I'm not showing any secrets. Anybody can see this. So that's why. Therefore, it is fine to show what I am showing. This is not a secret. Let's look at, for example, the Little Andaman. What do we have here? The Little Andaman Island. I don't see too much activity happening here. Typically, you want to see something that's visible from a distance. So, not much happening here. Little Andaman. What do we have here? This is South Sentinel Island. That's not the one. Now we have, this is Indonesia now. So we have gone too far south. Indonesia is what? Indonesia is about one less than 150 kilometers from India, neighboring nation. Now let's look at a large Andaman or whatever you want to call it. What do we have going on here? So let us see. Let us see. I'm sure this. Uh, I'm sure we have Air Force etc. capabilities here, somewhere here. I can see an airport over here. This is obviously an international airport, Veer Savarkar International Airport, and it's possible it may have some Air Force aircraft also, which is okay. Which is okay. What else? Sitapur and so on. I've heard of something called Campbell Bay, right? One second. I don't know why there's foreign names. Campbell Bay, Andaman Nicobar Islands. Zoomed in right away. Where is this? Okay, fine. It's over here. So I think I went too far north. I missed Campbell Bay. So we have an airport here as well. Is this an international airport? Is it a domestic airport? What's the distance? What's the length of the runway? 1.26 kilometers. Not a very big runway. Excuse me. And so on. This is a nice bay that we have. I'm sure it will make a very good naval base if you want to, and so on. So we have some capabilities over here in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. I think we have not really done enough to leverage the incredible geographical location that these islands represent. But I'm sure that we are doing something or the other to leverage its position. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands can serve as an unsinkable aircraft carrier. You can have Air Force bases there, for sure. You can have naval bases there. You can even have submarine bases there. It's not a bad idea to have maybe 100, 200 fighter planes stationed over there, maybe 100, maybe a few submarines, 10, 20 submarines. Of course, we only have 16 or so submarines, so we need to do something about that. But yeah, it's a tremendously important, tremendously strategic location, geographical location in the middle of the Eastern Indian Ocean, the so-called Bay of Bengal, right? So I think India is doing something about it. I think India should do a lot more about that. A lot more needs to be done and can be done. Um, okay. Naveen Kumar says, why did the Chinese air defense system fail so miserably in this Indo-Pak war? Was there a problem with this, with the quality of the system, or was there an issue with the skills of the Pakistanis operating it? I can't say. I can't say for sure. Um, you can only tell if you were there and you saw what was being done with the system. Uh, I would not want to blame the Pakistani skills on this. I'm sure the Pakistani military has reasonably competent people. I know we all know they're terrorists. They have this hatred towards India and they have this love for terrorism. We know that. But I think the Pakistani military is reasonably competent. And I would not imagine that they would have unskilled people. I'm sure they have reasonably skilled people who operate whatever they operate, right? And that's why I would not blame this on the skills of the Pakistanis operating the Chinese air defense system. I would blame this on the Chinese technology. I think the Chinese technology is substandard. That's what it looks like. That's what I think has happened, and that's a big problem for China. They're going to be very worried now. If they thought that there would have been some kind of uh, advantage that they have vis-a-vis India, and maybe that advantage will give them the opportunity to maybe indulge in a war with India, yeah, hypothetically, along the India-Tibet border, undemarcated border or something. Now they'll be worried about it. Now they will not consider the possibility of a war, even if they have so-called stealth aircraft or semi-stealth aircraft, like the J-20 or whatever. The J-20 is rumored to be reasonably well stealthy from the front, but its backside apparently is not stealthy at all, or it's got minimal stealth issues or whatever. So I don't think the Chinese will be happy about what's happened now. And considering the fact that our air defenses are so good, the Akash system, and the fact that their air defenses are terrible and the radars don't work, they're going to be worried now. And there's now, you see, that gives us a position of strength comparatively. Of course, they still are a very powerful nation, much more powerful than us. We cannot become overconfident. But yep, it's a interesting development for sure. Chirag says, there was so much of a delta between 2019 and 2025 Operation Sindoor. Is it mainly because of economic growth? Does it have any other factor? It's an interesting question, Chirag asks us. Let's compare the 2019 Balakot event with the 2025 Operation Sindoor event. 2019, we launched an airstrike deep inside Pakistan in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. I think it was that province, Balakot. And there was a terrorist headquarters or hideout or whatever it was over there. So we launched an airstrike. We used spice bombs. We hit the terror center, and apparently a bunch of terrorists died. But we produced no evidence. We did not have drones at the time, apparently, as far as I know. So we were not able to send a drone to Pakistan to fly over Balakot and film the strikes and show that, we actually did that and we actually hit the place. We produced no such evidence in Balakot. That's number one. Number two, you can say with a reasonable amount of truth that at least that we were kind of outmaneuvered from an Air Force perspective, because one of our fighter planes went into Pakistani airspace or Pakistani occupied airspace and was shot down. We shot down an F-16, but we were able to provide no evidence of that. And our fighter plane was shot down over Pakistani occupied territory, and one of our pilots was captured by Pakistan. Right? And so that's number two. We used MiG-21s. We had a pilot who was captured, then they had to return him. And thirdly, we shot down one of our own helicopters. Right? These are the things that happened in 2019. Now look at 2025. See the incredible difference between 2019 and 2025. 25 and 2019, night and day difference. We did not use MiG-21s. I don't know which fighter planes we used, but we did not use MiG-21s. We used drones to incredibly great effect. We used missiles of various kinds. I don't know which missiles, but the Pakistanis had no answer to the missiles. We wiped out their air defenses. We used drones of various kinds. They tried to hit us over and over and over again. In one night, they launched more than 500 drones at various Indian cities, all the way from Leh in the northern part of India, all the way to Sir Creek and Kutch in the southern part of the India-Pakistan border. They could not hit a single Indian city. They could not hit a single Indian airbase. They were able to hit civilian areas because you can't defend everything. They were able to hit Poonch and Rajouri with their shelling and artillery fire or whatever it was, right? But beyond that, they could not hit a single high-value Indian military installation. They tried launching a ballistic missile or long-range missile at Delhi. There also was brought down. I mean, the difference between 2019 and 2025 is a night and day difference. And then in a matter of less than 30 minutes, we hit 11 Pakistani air bases. We hit them where it hurts the most. We were able to hit Kirana Hills where they are hiding nuclear warheads. We were able to hit Sargodha. We were able to score direct hits on Noor Khan air base. We hit them in the heart of Rawalpindi, Islamabad, everywhere else. The Pakistanis had no answer. Night and day difference, incredible difference. If you compare 2019 with 2025, 2019 almost looks like a failure. It was not, but comparatively, what we achieved in 25, you can't compare 2019 with it. 2019 also was a success, but not the kind of success we've seen in 2025. Why did we have this success? Because first of all, we learned the lessons of 2019. We had certain deficiencies in 2019. We have rectified all the deficiencies. We are now using cutting-edge fighter planes, apparently. We definitely, I'm sure, did not use MiG-21 this time. We have uh, embraced 21st century warfare, drone warfare. We also have anti-drone systems, anti-missile and other things systems, incredible air defense. So we have used a lot of indigenous systems. The Harop drone may be of Israeli design, but we manufacture it in India. The Akash system is of Indian design and manufactured in India. And the L-70 gun, we have enhanced and augmented it and turned it into a tremendously potent air defense weapon. And we have other systems as well. So because of our own R&D, because we have trusted our own engineers and scientists and technicians, because we have inducted our own systems, that's one reason why we have succeeded. We have embraced AI, possibly we have embraced robotics, we've embraced drone warfare, and all of this happens. How has all of this happened? Because obviously of economic growth. The larger your economy is, the more you can spend on the military, and that's one. Number two, leadership. You may have a great economy, but if your leadership isn't good, then the military will not get what it needs. So leadership is very important. So I'm sure a lot of the credit has to go to Prime Minister Mr. Modi, Narendra Modi. Imagine if you had AK Antony as the defense minister today. Would we have dealt with Pakistan this way? Think about it. So yeah, these are the reasons why there's such a huge delta, as you say, between 2019 and 2025. All right. Knowledge Seeker 1 says, was Trump scared that he was going to lose the trade war because China would sell weapons and get out of a bad financial situation? Is Trump trying to pressure India into a trade deal now? How can Trump lose a trade war because China will sell weapons? To whom will they sell weapons? To get out of the bad financial situation. They would need maybe $1 trillion of weapon sales. Sales. To whom will they sell that much weaponry? To Pakistan? Do you think Pakistan has any money to give to China? That's not how it works, my friends. Is Trump trying to pressure India into a trade deal now? Of course, he's trying to pressure India into a trade deal. He wants India to have 0% tariffs on the United States, which means the Americans can flood the Indian market with their goods. That's what he wants. And if we don't agree to a 0% trade deal, then they will impose tariffs on us. Well, let's see how it goes. If he is going to be unreasonable, let it be. Right? Samrat asks a very pertinent question. Should India increase defense spending now? I think India needs to definitely increase defense spending. I don't know what percentage of our GDP goes into the defense budget. Maybe it's 2%, maybe it's 2.5%. I'm not sure. Maybe it's less than 2%. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen the latest figures. But a significant percentage of the defense budget goes into simply paying salaries and pensions of current armed forces personnel and retired armed forces personnel. So how much of the defense budget actually goes into maintaining weapons and buying new weapon systems? Not a lot. I think India should double its defense budget for the next 10 years. Get serious. The world is now a pretty nasty place. Wars erupting everywhere. You got China on one side, Pakistan on the other side. You got East Pakistan, West Pakistan, on the east and west of India. To the northern part of India, you have this huge undemarcated border with Chinese occupied Tibet. Then you have various projects like Project K, Cookie Land for Christ, to create a new artificial Christian nation, Cookie Land, out of parts of Manipur, Mizoram, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. Myanmar has been destabilized by the Biden regime. The Cookie Land for Christ, Project K, was a Biden regime creation, right? We have so many threats. It is time, I think, India should double its defense budget for maybe 10 years. India needs to arm itself to the teeth, really. Considering the neighborhood we're living in, considering the kind of neighbors the gods have gifted us today, I'll not blame the gods for it, but whatever it is, we need to take our defense much more seriously. Excuse me. Raghunath says, is next war over Indus Treaty coming soon? Do you think, yes, so The Pakistanis have claimed that the Indus Waters Treaty abrogation is like an act of war. My question to the Pakistanis is okay, let's say it's an act of war. What can you do about it? What are you going to do about it? You have hit us over and over again for decades with terrorism, and we chose not to do a thing about it. Now we said enough is enough. Water and blood cannot flow together. So we're going to abrogate the Indus Waters Treaty until you guys demonstrate to the world and to us, forget about the world, you demonstrate to us that you have actually shut down your terror factories and dismantled all your terror infrastructure and eliminated all your terrorists. Until you give us incontrovertible proof of all of this, we're not gonna honor the Indus Waters Treaty. As simple as that. Now, if you have a problem with that, do your worst. Do what you can. You do a terror strike against India, we will take it as an act of war. And we're going to treat you as war criminals. And Operation Sindoor will look like just a trailer of what's really going to come. So the question really is Pakistan in a position to go to war with India? What are their capabilities? They are in no position to go to war with India. The worst thing they can do is to strike at India through asymmetric warfare, which means terror strikes. That is something that we would take very, very seriously. And if there is a terror strike anywhere in India, the Pakistanis must pay for it very badly. Very badly. Okay, Tina Yadav says trumpet. Trump asked Tim Cook to not manufacture in India. Why is he so insecure all of a sudden? And IAEA denied the nuclear leak. So I discussed what Trump said some time ago. He is upset that India has hit his pet terrorist nation so hard. Trump seems to have a great fondness for terrorists. He recently met with Al Julani, a terrorist with a $10 million bounty on his head from the FBI. So he seems to be completely okay with professional head choppers. Julani was a professional head chopper just a few years ago. So Trump is okay with that. The Americans have a track record of being very comfortable with terrorists and human rights abusers. Of course, they sponsored these people, funded and financed these people, so it's fine. So Trump is unhappy that we have hit Pakistan so badly. And he's unhappy that we are negotiating hard when it comes to the trade and tariff deal, right? We are not allowing the Americans to arm twist us and push us over. It's not working. So Trump is very unhappy. It's not only Pakistan, it's also the trade thing. He wants India to have a zero tariff policy when it comes to American goods. That is unreasonable, right? So it's not going well, and that's why he's unhappy. So that's the reason why he is doing all this. And he's, heaping praise on Pakistan these days. Pakistanis are fantastic people, and Pakistan makes wonderful things. What wonderful things does Pakistan make? The only high quality thing the Pakistanis make is terrorists. So I don't know. Now IAEA denied a nuclear leak. I don't know about that. I've not heard the news of the International Atomic whatever agency, what they may or may not have said about Pakistan and the possible nuclear leak. I don't know. And if they say something, we don't have to trust them. It's not like if somebody says something, they are telling the truth all the time, right? All these agencies are tools in the hands of the West to be used for various purposes. When the WHO says, what's his name? Dr. Tedros, do you think if he says something, you should trust him? What was that thing called? Omicron. I mean, where is the coronavirus today? Such a big deal, right? They shut down the entire world for the coronavirus. That's how dangerous it apparently was. Where is it today? They said it came from, I don't know what. It was a natural thing. By now, I think it's pretty well established that the coronavirus was a bioweapon. So these people, they have been lying. They have a habit of lying, and they will use lies to mislead people. So maybe there's a nuclear leak in Pakistan, but to cover it up, they are lying once again. That's also a possibility we have to consider. So my perspective is that I don't trust any of these people. I know for a fact that they use fake news and propaganda to mislead the world. They've done this over and over again. They've been doing it for decades, and there's no reason for us to believe them. Okay. Um, Anshul says, how good is the Indian Army's Kali weapon? TV channel Network 18, which is the umbrella corporation for CNN News and News 18, is owned by Reliance. Why is the government not using Motabai for information warfare? Okay, there are like three different questions. I am not aware of this Kali weapon. I've heard rumors of it for more than 20 years. It's allegedly some kind of directed energy weapon. I'm sure we have directed energy weapons, also called lasers, also lasers, masers, microwave weapons, whatever you want to call them, directed energy weapons. I think one of our research organizations recently tested a very powerful directed energy weapon, probably more powerful than what the Americans have publicly announced that they have. So is this the Kali weapon that people have been talking about? I'm not sure. So when it comes to directed energy weapons, I think we probably have a pretty good research and development set of projects that may be ongoing. So yeah, when you think Kali weapon, you mean directed energy weapon or laser weapon. I think we are pretty good on that front. I'm not sure if we have actually deployed it with our armed forces. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I'm pretty sure that we are in the process of doing the R&D, the development of such weapons. And at an appropriate time, they will be inducted into the armed forces whenever it is appropriate, whenever it is well tested. So it will happen. So I'm pretty confident we are on good ground when it comes to directed energy weapons. So the advantage of a directed energy weapon, let's understand what that is. Let's say you have incoming missiles. So we saw the Pakistanis launched hundreds of drones and God knows how many missiles at us, at more than 20 Indian cities, more than 25 Indian cities. And we defended our cities and our people and our military installations from these Pakistani missiles and drones and whatnot. We defended using a multi-layered air defense system, which had the L-70 gun, which had the Pechora system, which had the Aakash system, possibly the Barak system, and also the S-400 system, right? So when you want to bring down an incoming drone, you have to shoot something at it. The L-70 gun will shoot some kind of shell at the incoming drone, right? And it's very accurate, so it hits. Now, let's say there's a missile coming in. So you use something else to shoot down the missile. But instead of using projectiles like shells or missiles or whatever, what if you use energy? Just energy. So that's a directed energy weapon. Energy in the form of light, photons, laser, light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. That's laser. So essentially, you have an extremely focused light beam, completely coherent, and it contains a huge amount of energy that can take out anything from any distance that you want. Not any distance, but yeah, you get what I mean. So it's much more effective. It's even more accurate than anything we may currently have, but it consumes a lot of energy. That's why it's very difficult to miniaturize such systems, and that's the game. So that's a directed energy weapon or laser weapon, and I think we are doing good on that front. Now, about the propaganda thing, I'm sure the government can do better than what it's doing right now, for sure. Geopolitical Dubey says Elon Musk today is enjoying the privileges, but what after the Trump regime? Don't you think the Democrats will do everything possible to hunt him down? Maybe by the time he'll be on Mars. Who knows? See, Musk is the world's richest man today, as far as I know. A net worth of more than $400 billion. And he's very central in some ways to the promotion of America's geopolitical interests, especially in the dimension and the domain of space, in the domain of terrestrial surveillance through satellite networks and so on, and interference in the internal affairs of nations through Twitter, through X, and also by spying on nations via satellites and by beaming satellite internet where nations may not want internet to be there and so on. He's integral to the US geopolitical interests. And it makes no sense for Democrats, if they come to power in the future, to go after Elon Musk, because he is integral to the interests of their nation, which is their interests. Uh, so I don't think it's gonna play out in that manner. When it comes to his relationship with Trump, I don't think it'll last that long. Trump is a very egoistic person, right? We know that. Very vain person, very self-centered person, kind of a narcissist, very egoistic, self-centered. It's all about me first, and so on. That's the sort of guy Trump is. And you can and we know that Elon Musk is richer than Trump. Elon Musk is more successful than Trump. Elon Musk, in the long run, may end up being more powerful than Trump. And Trump can't stand that. So I don't think this relationship will last very long. I think Elon Musk has already been asked to vacate the office he had in the White House and go back to where he was. And I think he's kind of stepping back from his political activities. So that was bound to happen, right? And in the long run, I don't think Democrats will do every possible thing to hunt him down. He's just too important for the nation. Suman Vikrant Panda says, can India intercept a nuclear missile? If it is shot down over our land, how is radiation risk handled? India, I think, most likely can intercept a nuclear missile. It's possible. I mean, the Pakistanis launched a long-range missile at Delhi. We know that. It was brought down over Sirsa, Haryana. They launched a long-range missile, possibly that Fatah or whatever they call it, with a range of 400 kilometers, which is no longer a short-range missile. We brought it down. Now, there's no difference between a regular missile and a nuclear missile. It's the same missile. But if you put a nuclear warhead inside it, then it's a nuclear missile. So the propulsion system is the same, the missile is the same. The only thing that changes is, instead of a conventional chemical warhead, you put a nuclear warhead. That's the only difference. The warhead is the only difference. The missile is the same thing. So if you can intercept the missile that they launched at Delhi, then you can intercept the nuclear missiles. I'm not sure they tried ballistic missiles. I don't think it was a ballistic missile that was brought down over Haryana. It was a long-range missile, the Fatah or whatever the hell they call it. So we definitely can intercept that. We can intercept all the things that they threw at us during the course of the 3-day war. We also have the Prithvi air defense system, which is designed to take out ballistic missiles, incoming ballistic missiles. So the Prithvi air defense system has a two-pronged approach. It has 2 interceptor missiles. The first interceptor missile, it intercepts the incoming ballistic missile outside of the atmosphere. That is more than 100 kilometers from the surface of the Earth. It takes out the incoming ballistic missile at an altitude of more than 100 kilometers. Now, in case, for whatever reason, that missile fails to intercept the incoming ballistic missile, then the second missile is launched, which then intercepts the incoming missile at an altitude of about 60, 50, 40 kilometers above the Earth's surface. So it's 2 missiles that are launched. If the first one doesn't work, the second one will do its job. And it's pretty clear that India's missiles are extremely accurate. We even have the ASAT system, which can take out incoming ballistic missiles. Right? It can take out objects that are traveling at more than Mach 25. So India, I think we need not be worried about India's capabilities of defending the country against ballistic missiles or incoming threats of various kinds. I think I'm actually shocked at how surprised at how good our air defense system is. So yeah, I think India I think already has the capabilities to intercept incoming ballistic missiles, nuclear missiles, whatever you want to call them. Now, if a missile is shot down over our territory, how is the radiation risk handled? So you have to understand, let's say you have a plutonium warhead. There are 2 kinds of nuclear warheads. A nuclear warhead is the actual bomb, okay, which is put inside in the front fairing of a missile. So the nuclear warhead, the bomb, If it's a if the fissile material used in that is plutonium, then it will the plutonium will be about 5 kilos maybe. I'm giving you a very rough ballpark figure. I'm not giving you exact numbers. Roughly 5 kilos, maybe 10 kilos at most. If it's uranium, it could be 20, 30 kilos, maybe 100 kilos. So it makes sense to use plutonium because it has, yeah, it's better to in handling and all that. So let's say you have a plutonium warhead, maybe 10 kilos of plutonium. You to understand that plutonium is not a powder. Plutonium is a metal. It's a metal. If it's not plutonium and it's uranium, then once again, uranium is not a powder, it's a metal. So if you destroy a warhead, you take it down, then the warhead may not explode, it will just break. Or maybe it's designed that if it's taken down, it will explode in the air. Then it's okay, it explodes like 50 kilometers above the air, or maybe it explodes outside of the atmosphere. Doesn't make much of a difference to us. There have been so many atmospheric nuclear tests in the past. So many atmospheric nuclear tests. It did not make any difference, much of a difference to the world. So if it explodes in the air, let's say, no big deal. But if it fails to explode and comes down on the earth, then you have to hunt for a few pieces of uranium or plutonium. That's it. It doesn't cause a tremendous amount of contamination or fallout, nuclear fallout, radioactive fallout. Radioactive fallout happens when a nuclear reactor malfunctions and suffers meltdown, maybe explosive meltdown, like what happened in Chernobyl, what happened in Fukushima. But when it comes to nuclear warheads malfunctioning or being destroyed or exploding, you won't have that sort of scenario. So we need not be worried about this too much. Okay. Pritam Gurung says the Indian Air Force have also said that they have used UAVs that mimic jets under radar signature dummy jets to engage, bait, and fool Chinese air defense systems. Good job. I I am very pleased to hear this. I approve of this. What else can I say? Absolutely good, absolutely brilliant, outstanding. Um. All right. Okay. Bling chilling says how no has China have China and the US agreed to not let a third power grow? Also, why don't we see internal India infra roads grow despite economic growth, or will it start eventually like how it was with China? I think the US and China have some kind of understanding. Okay, we are adversaries, we are near peer competitors. China is like not as entirely a peer of the US, but yeah, you could consider these to be the most consequential nations today. I am pretty sure the US and the Chinese have an understanding. Let's compete with each other, but let's not allow a third power to emerge and grow. So I think the US and the Chinese, I think they see very much eye to eye when it comes to India. Neither wants India to grow. The US is happy to use India, if possible for them, as a pawn against China, but not at the cost of having India grow and becoming more powerful. They would not like to see that. And you could see their approach when it came to India almost destroying Pakistan. So yeah, I think they have an understanding about India. Let's not tolerate India growing. Let's keep it. Let's cut India down to size if possible, and prevent it from growing. I think they have the agreement, that understanding. Now, why don't we see internal growth, infrastructure in India, and so on, despite economic growth? I think we are seeing that. Um, I know that we would like to see it in cities, but I think what we are seeing is the construction of tremendous quantities of highways, railways, airports. All of that is happening. So see, when it comes to the construction and deployment of infrastructure, the central government doesn't have that much of a role to play, except in building highways, railways, airports, and so on. That's what the central government does. When it comes to improving the living standards in cities, all that comes under state governments. And so, in some states, you will see better living standards than other states. I mean, some states have vastly better living standards than the states that are economically bigger than them. I'll not take names because it will upset people. But yeah, you go to some states, living standards are way better. than other states, which apparently have a bigger GDP than the state where where stuff is better. So I think all of that it comes under state governments, and it's for the state governments to answer their citizens as to why things aren't good compared to that state or this state, right? Uh, yeah, that's an issue in India for sure. That's an issue. Things can be so much better. Tina Yadav says, "Have you seen the meme Center of Gravity?" I'm hearing a lot of people making fun of this meme, but I haven't seen it myself. So maybe after this is over, I'll go to Twitter or somewhere and look up Center of Gravity. I haven't seen that. I get the feeling it's something very funny. Okay, Drunkush GOA says, if plutonium and uranium are metals, which they are, if you don't believe me, let me demonstrate to you what plutonium and uranium look like. Then I'll answer your question. So let's go to our good old friend Google. Google plutonium. Plutonium. What does plutonium look like, right? That's the question. What's it look like? See, this is plutonium. As you can see, it's a metal. Here, plutonium is behaving differently. Here's plutonium, and so on. So plutonium is a metal. All right. This is what plutonium looks like. This is what plutonium looks like. It's a metal. What about uranium? It's another metal. There you have it. This is the ore, but this is the actual purified uranium. Here you have uranium ore, uranium yellow cake, which is processed ore, uranium hexafluoride gas, dioxide, which is like dark. Then you have fuel pellets, and so on and so forth. That's uranium. So hopefully it's clear that both uranium and plutonium are metals. All right. Now, the question you asked, I think it's a good question. Why don't we use it to create structures, construction machines, etc.? Yeah, because it is radioactive. Because it's radioactive, you are exposed. If you're exposed to it for more than a few seconds, you're pretty much guaranteed to have DNA damage. And DNA damage, what is it called? It's called cancer. So you don't want to be anywhere near plutonium or uranium without having a lead shield between you and the metal. So that's the reason why we do not want uranium, plutonium anywhere to be used in any kind of construction. Secondly, plutonium is a shockingly powerful poison. I don't want to tell you how poisonous plutonium is and how it can be misused. It is one of the most potent poisons you can imagine. So you can't have plutonium anywhere near, human habitations or where human beings are. Okay. What else do we have? Apurva says, do you think India diplomatically lost? No reaction by authorities on. I'm not taking any more Rafale questions. India has not lost diplomatically. The Pakistanis will lie. The West will lie. We haven't lost diplomatically. And I'm not taking any more Rafale questions. Rajor Shigon says, some Indian YouTubers and influencers are now under the radar of suspicion for spying for Pakistan. If true, how can they help apart from providing pics and videos and of assets of concern? I am not sure. Let's say you are a defense YouTuber and you have access to the Indian defense establishment to some extent. Maybe you could do something. I'm not sure. Okay. The main thing that YouTubers or influencers who are compromised, the main thing they can do is create the wrong narrative, the wrong perception, and maybe create pro-Pakistan narratives and push pro-Pakistan narratives. That's the main thing you can do, but there's no law against that, right? Because India has freedom of speech and all that nonsense, and that's why many big YouTubers and all these individuals have what you could call an anti-national approach. Yeah, so I don't think you cannot spy for a country unless you have access to sensitive places and classified information. If you don't have access to sensitive places and classified information, you can't spy. But you can certainly push a propaganda narrative that is pro-Pakistan. That's the kind of thing you can do. So many of these influencers, YouTubers do that. We know that very well. So that's how it goes. Okay, with that question, I'm going to come to the end of today's live stream. We have again crossed 2 hours, 15 minutes. So I'm going to end it over here. Looks like the war is on a pause right now. The borders are no longer hot. But let's see how long that continues. But as far as Pakistan keeps on existing, we're gonna be a nation that's under threat because Pakistan is a terrorist nation. And the only way the threat will end is if we once and for all comprehensively defeat Pakistan and balkanize it. I have nothing against the people of Pakistan, but the fact is that most Pakistani people want us dead. So sorry, but not sorry. So hopefully this happens soon. But the day the Pahalgam attack happened, the clock started ticking backwards for Pakistan. Hopefully soon. All right, end of today's live stream. Thank you so much for your questions, and I will see you very soon in the next live stream. Keep asking questions, keep raising your standards, and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye bye.